The three things I want to talk about today. There's no point going on here. It's complete fail. I'm going to take you out. I think you're poisonous. Okay, so there's three things that we've learned a lot about over the last 8 months, and that's what I'm going to kind of talk about today. Mobile, social, and data, and they're kind of the things that if I went back 8 months, I would focus a lot more on. So what Banter was when we set up about 8 months ago was a social network for football fans. And if you, I don't know if any of you were at the last presentation, but I kind of explained where the background came from. You won't know this guy, he's my business partner, he's Ollie, he's a bit of a loser. He supports Liverpool, and anyone who's a football fan knows that they basically had a terrible 2 years. And I get the train with Ollie every day into London. And at the time we came up with the idea, this guy called Roy Hodgson, who was manager at Liverpool, and he was having a bit of a disaster. And Ollie basically hated Roy Hodgson. He thought he was the devil because he was taking Liverpool down and they weren't winning anything. So I kind of got fed up of hearing Ollie moan on the train every day, and we were kind of looking on Twitter and Facebook, and people were moaning about him, thinking he should be replaced. But he kind of kept his job for about, I think, about 12 weeks longer than he should have. So we kind of came up with this idea and said, you know what, there's no index online of who's a football fan in here, by the way? Who's a Liverpool fan? Unlucky. So we kind of thought that there needs to be a place where you can just go for your manager and say whether you approve or disapprove of him, and have kind of an index, like an approval index of the managers. And that would be great because you sign up as a team you support, and then if they're doing really badly, then you could kind of vote up and down. And then we were kind of like, well, this is really boring on its own. So what we kind of thought is the world needs a social network for football. So we're like, brilliant, oh man, this is genius. So we went ahead and built this. And we did a load of stuff. You know, you could check into games, you could follow tweets, you could follow the news of your team, you could see lineups and everything. And we launched it, and the first 7 days was like that. We had like 3,000 sign up. We're like, this is brilliant. Oh my God, nobody's done this. We're going to be rich. And when you're rich, you make dollars, you don't make pounds. I don't know if you know that. This is the house I was going to buy. It's actually got a water slide. I was going to buy that house. I was going to get this car, so an Lamborghini Gallardo, a garish Rolex watch, and loads of hot chicks. I absolutely made it. And then a week later that happened. And we were like, shit. Why does this happen? Why does nobody use it? It's an absolute disaster. Oh no. So the solution for us was, all right, what we need to do is we need to go and build loads more features, because the reason people aren't using it is there isn't enough features in our product. So we added loads more, and I moaned at the developers and made them work all the time, and what came out of that was a complete fail, because nothing changed. So again, I spent time thinking about why has this happened? Why has it happened? It's the developers' fault. Basically, the reason this is rubbish it's nothing to do with me. It's the guys who program it have basically written absolutely crap code. So whilst it wasn't really their fault, I just said that to make you laugh. It's actually, we spent some time looking at our data, and then what we did, we went into Google Analytics. Okay, who uses Google Analytics for your data? Yeah, rubbish. Don't do it.
Oh.
Okay. So the first thing you should do when you set up a startup is build a custom analytics program so you can track individual users. Because if you're using Google, you just got all these vanity metrics that tell you nothing. Tell you absolutely nothing. So the first thing, we looked at our data and realised we'd got it completely wrong and it was a complete fail. And then I came across this. Who hasn't read this book? Put your hand up if you haven't read this book. Man, if you're running a startup, you've got to get this book. It's absolutely genius. This guy will teach you, you know, he won't help you if your idea is crap, but if your idea is good, he will stop you failing. And so we took that book, and what his theory is that if you've got a good idea, anyone can make it work. You know, you can make it work. But the way you do it is you launch with a minimum viable product. I heard the lady over there mention MVP earlier. Yeah, minimum viable product. And then what you do is you iterate lots of different changes, and you see what works. And if it works, you keep it. If it's rubbish, you junk it. And you do that by having really good data. So we had to go through this process of plugging in some custom analytics to actually learn what people are doing. Okay, I'm going to be a bit cliche now. This is Henry Ford, and very famous quote. If I'd asked people what they wanted, they would have said faster horses. That may be true, but they might have also asked for a car. So I just think I think it's good to speak to your users, so we went out and did that as well. So we kind of asked, rather than ask the people who are using it and telling us how brilliant we were, we asked the people who weren't using it anymore. So the first thing that came out was it was far too complicated. So loading all these features up, people would come into the site and go, I've got no idea what to do here. So they were registering and weren't staying. The second thing, it was too slow. You know, we hadn't invested the money into the hardware to make it really run smoothly. A few people come back and said, look, it's just shit, so I don't want to use it. So you can't really do anything about those guys. And the most stupid thing of all we did, it wasn't mobile. I am going to contradict myself now, so show you something from Google. But the one thing we did learn is that nobody was using it really during the day, but every day around this time, 8 o'clock, it burst to life. And it burst to life when games were on. And the reason it burst to life when games were on is because, you know, when we try to create a social network for football fans, if you're a Chelsea fan, you're not going to come to Banter and talk about Chelsea, because you've got somewhere to go and talk about Chelsea, where all the Chelsea fans are. You're not going to come and talk about Chelsea on your own. But when we have this live match centre where you could check in and vote on the action, nobody was doing this. So we kind of had this spike of traffic. So there's a term within that some of you have heard of in the Lean Startup, which refers to something called a pivot. And if you don't know what pivot is, that basically means when you kind of strategically change direction. And if you're thinking about making a pivot, you probably have to do it because you're probably going through what we went through. So we did. We went through a pivot. And the idea being is that forget all this social network stuff, because it hasn't worked. What we'll do is we'll just focus on the live match centre, that thing that's working, people are using. So Banter now isn't a social network for football fans. We make live football interactive. With regards to data, and most of this actually is about us maturing during the process and learning, you know, how to really run a business. Rather than think you've got a great idea, just because it's a brilliant idea, it's going to work. It's actually learning about what you need to be as a mature business. Because the other thing we tried to do is we raised a seed fund, and then we wanted to raise a Series A, and people came to us and said, how are you going to make money? And we kind of don't need to, we're a startup, we just get people and it's going to happen. It's not really true, that doesn't really work. So when we re-engineered as our next product, which I'm going to show you, we went straight back to the data level and said, okay, what is the data that's going to run our business, and how are we going to use that to make money? So we made 4 layers of data. So the first one's the user, that's me. I've got there, I'm a Liverpool fan, I'm not actually, I'm a Reading fan, but no one cares. Most people don't even know who Reading are. So from our data, we have a user layer. So you know, I'm a Liverpool fan, you also know I like Reading and Arsenal because I check into all those games, and you all this data about me from Facebook. You also know that I approve of Dalglish, I rate Steven Gerrard, and I think Andy Carroll's crap. And then we built a match layer. And with the match layer, you know that I'm checked into Southampton Reading, I'm going to go and watch that live. I think it's going to be a away win. I'm also going to the Villa United game, and I'm going to watch the Liverpool Arsenal game on TV. We then have a social layer, which connects all my friends. So, Ollie, you know I'm connected to him. You know we're going to watch this game together. You know with Johnny, I'm connected to him. But you also know all my friends who aren't signed up. And then we built this non-social layer of all the other people who are on there, and how we're all connected in different ways. What this enabled us to do is then start thinking a bit more commercially. So, with this database of, we don't have 100,000, I wish we did, but if we had 100,000 users and we wanted to target them, if we wanted just say to target the men, we'd maybe have 8 or 9,000. If we wanted 18 to 35, we would have 76,000. If we wanted the people at the Villa United game, it'd be 9,000, and the ones who United have 4,000. So what building Banter on top of this data structure allowed us to then go, okay, this is how we can now use it to make money, because we can go to people who've got the product and say, if you want to target somebody, this is how we can target them. The next thing we did that I wish we'd done at the start was a much deeper consideration of social, and I don't mean just pushing tweets and stuff on Facebook. It's really understanding the open graph. Have any of you plugged your startup, your product, into the open graph yet? Okay, you've done it. How did you find it? Hard work? But has it been useful? Yeah. So if you've all heard of Open Graph, if you don't know exactly what it means, what it really means, because I'd heard of it and I thought I had until I did it, it's basically taken, it's going away from people posting status updates to objects and actions. So before, when people would check into a game on Banter, say post to Facebook, it would just be a status update that said, Peter has checked into Liverpool the Arsenal, and it was just a status update. But now we're in Open Graph, it knows that it's a check and it knows which game I'm checking into. So if you check into the same game as me, it would say Peter and Adrock have checked into Liverpool v Arsenal. So it starts to collect this intelligent data. So the first thing, it knows I'm a Reading fan and I've checked into 31 games, and it knows that I commented on Southampton v Reading. But what it does, it starts to aggregate this data. So now when I check into a bunch of games, rather than 5 individual posts that mean nothing, it actually collects them up. And it tells my friends the games I'm interested in. But when me and Chris Ritchie are both commenting on the same picture, it says Peter and Chris Ritchie comment on this picture, and it tells us what the game is, who they're playing, what the kickoff time is. It gives all that useful information. And then also, if we check into the same game, Peter and Ian Harris are checked into the same picture on Banter, and it shows that data. What's really interesting about this is that this thing here, this is aggregations, and it's all about social design. So what happens is as more people do things, it drives itself on, and it aggregates more data, and it puts more relevant data in front of more relevant people, because it learns what's relevant to who. And it's probably the thing I wish we'd done at the start the most, because it's very, very impressive. So if you don't know Open Graph, I suggest you check it out. The last thing is we'll talk about mobile. Okay, this is where we were really stupid, because we thought this great thing where you can check into games and everything would be great for football fans. But the reality of football fans, when they're watching football, they've not really got laptops on their lap. Derek might. But most people, but every single football fan has got a phone, and some have got iPads, and when they're in the pub or at the game or at home, they've got a phone. So that was pretty dumb of us not to do that. And what we learned is, we've been looking a lot at the second screen stuff, because it really is growing. Everyone's talking about second screen and Z-Box, amazing, but not many people are actually using the second screen, because actually it's quite a boring experience. Because actually, if you're using Z-Box and you're watching the news, it's probably quite different from what you want from X Factor. It's probably quite different from what you want from football. So to make it interactive, the experience is always going to be different. So what we said is, don't think of it as a second screen experience, just think of it as a companion for what you need from live football. So we rethought Banter and said, if we don't solve the basic needs of football fans that they have every day, there's no reason for them to use us every day. So if they don't use us, they won't get involved in our deeper experience. So the basic need, and we got this totally wrong in our first project, was they want to know fixtures, they want to know live scores, who the teams are, and what's on. That's the absolute basic they want. If you can get that right, they'll use your product every day. Then you can get the deep experience. Then you can have the check-ins, the predictions, the approvals, the match actions, and the ratings. So we got this and we went ahead and built it. So I'm going to just show you the mobile thing. We're actually submitting this to Apple this evening. So here's the basic need. Simple structure of live games that are on and live scores. So at any point, I just want to check the scores, I can open up, I can get them. If I want to see the commentary. Any Chelsea fans? Any Chelsea fans? Yeah. You should be happy, man. You're in the Champions League final. God damn it. Try being a Reading fan. So you can get the commentary. There you go. You can see what's happened during the game. If you want to see the teams, you can see the teams. And you want to see the stats, you can see the stats. So if we supply this as well as anyone else, we can then get them for the deeper experience. So what we also say, if you're interested in checking into things, if you want to check into everything, you can check into the game or you can predict the outcome. If you want to set up a customizable set of games you care about, so me as a Reading / Liverpool fan, I can collect. So on a Saturday, there's a bunch of results I want to know about. I want to know about the ones surrounding Reading, the ones surrounding Liverpool, and the top team. So I can build my own collection of scores, and I can have my own list that I follow on a Saturday. This is the in-game stuff. So we make it a bit more interactive. So should Drogba be booked? Probably most of the time, yes. So what you can happen is, if you think that this happens, you think there should be a penalty, a yellow card, offside, a red, dives up, press that button, you select the player, and it creates something in the feed. And then you can click on that and vote on it. So, did Drogba dive? Probably more than 71%. It should be 100% all the time, shouldn't it? And then you can do that, and you could comment it and talk about it. We also changed our whole rating system. Originally in the ratings we had it, so you rate everything out of 10. And in the end, no one can be bothered. So we just sent a simple yes or no. They're playing good or crap. We do it for the, the, game, the ref, and all the players, but we also allow you to vote man of the match. We allow you to invite your friends, obviously. This is your manager approval. How's he doing? Good or bad? Yes or no? And are they fit to wear the shirt? Some of these are different because I wanted to kind of represent yes or no. Every one of them is fit to wear the shirt. And the interesting thing about doing all this and plugging it all into Facebook, it gives us something we didn't realise we had. So we had all this data about our users that we didn't know existed. That made us quite useful to some people. So when you get our demographic data from Facebook, it's hard to see here. 66% of our users are men aged 18 to 35, the hardest group to reach. We didn't even know we had this, because we're idiots. But now we know we have this. This is a product we can take to market. So what can we do in terms of making money? I'll show you a few things. Okay, very boring one. I wish we don't have to put up here, but advertising is something. It's always an opportunity. What is one of our biggest opportunities is, and we've spoke to a few of the betting companies actually. They're quite keen on this because the fastest growing area of betting is in game. So we can actually push odds in. So goal goes in. We can tell you 100 to 1 Paul Scholes next score. You can make it bet. We can allow you to brand a match. So we can sell packages of matches. You can take the FA Cup, you can take the Champions League, we can brand our matches in our app. We can use e-commerce. So you think Rooney's fit to wear the shirt? Why don't you buy your new shirt with Rooney on it? Or we can even do location targeting. So if you've checked into the game and you're watching at home, we can push pizza off to you. Half time you can order a pizza. The most interesting thing about this all is so I can go back to second screen, it's really growing, it's brilliant, Z-Box are amazing. And the problem is, most people there's a big move away from actually watching live TV. People Sky Plus and TiVo. So there's a big real issue there. But the one thing we're confident on is people will always watch football live because it's crap afterwards, isn't it? You don't want to watch a 90-minute game after you know the score because it's rubbish. So nobody does it. So we're confident that it's the one thing that will stay live and people will keep doing. And we've built ourselves a scale. So we actually use MongoDB. I don't know anything about it. I'm far from technical, so I can't tell you about it. All I can tell you is that our structure is very simple. We have a data feed that comes in from Okta. We push it into the MongoDB bit. We interpret that, and then we push it out to a device. But what makes it really great about it is we set the whole thing up as an API. Is that there's on our mobile app there's 50 keywords, so we can actually translate the entire app in a week and push it out to the App Store. So next season, if we're in Germany, would be great for us. We can do that in a week. We can actually add a league in a day. And the reason we can do that is we say Opta, switch on the Bundesliga, it automatically works on our site. The only thing we have to do is we have to design all the shirts and upload the shirts, which takes about a day. Size of the market for us, well, Premier League alone is broadcast to 10 million UK homes, but we don't think that's a big opportunity, and most football fans in England are idiots, so we don't really want to target that. We want to target the 600 million homes worldwide the Premier League's broadcast to. And that equals 4.7 billion individual match viewers. That's an actual fact from the FA. I mean, I could be 20, you could be 50, whatever, but there's 4.7 billion times where people are watching the Premier League alone. Okay. So, we're going to relaunch in 10 days, if Apple approve it then. That's our product. That's me saying Ashley Young dived, as he dived, the diving kit. Any questions?